Now that you're hard. Okay. I will go ahead and call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for December 14th, 2023. It is 10:03 in the morning. Let's see, Christian, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I want to thank my colleagues for covering last week. I had a medical emergency, so I appreciate stepping in and covering the meeting.
Commissioner Johnston said, happy to do it anytime.
I got a 10 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10.
For brevity.
All right. So the first item we have is our 2023 Employee Years of Service Recognition. Commissioners, you have the list? Okay. So as the chair of the board, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your hard work and dedication. Throughout the past few years, some of us much longer, but we've had the privilege of working alongside you to serve the needs of our community. And we as commissioners have this unique opportunity to also work to strengthen our workforce in Yamhill County and the needs of our employees. And I think we are in agreement, as Kit said last meeting, that we have some of the best folks in Yamhill County right here. So without further ado, we will start with Commissioner Starrett presenting the 5-year awardees.
All right, thank you, Chair. And I will echo the chair. We do have some wonderful employees and we've seen them step in difficult times and circumstances. So we appreciate that. Our first acknowledgement goes to the 5-year employees in administration. Our 5-year award goes to Justin Hogue. Justin is to my left and he is the Deputy County Administrator and we appreciate your
We mispronounced the first name. This is not good.
Thank you, Justin,
Not
for your
off to a
service.
good start here.
Tara Williams. Tara, thank you. Mariah Turner. Mike Barnhart. Mike is hard at work. I know that. Thank you, Mike. In the assessor's office, Kimberly Navarro. Norman Olson. In community justice, Pamela Ramsey. In the DA's office, Greg Jones. On the fair board, or rather in the fair office is Lacey Carroll. In IT, Delva Johnson. Public Works, is Delva here? I talked to you. I don't think I've ever seen your face, but you've been very patient with me. Thank you. Public Works, Tim Banson. Robert Young. Mark Schroyer. In planning, Ashley Watkins. Gary Stuck. Jessica Biggs. In HHS, Tina Good. Raquel Rodriguez. Amanda Aguirre. Nicholas Bowman. Carolyn Graham. Lane Pendleton Baker. Abigail Gray. Brandy King Jackson, Melissa Glenn, Jane Menard, Brenda Flores, Carrie Martin, RN, Lauren Tracty, Alexis Burke, Lisa Whistler, Alana Stevens. Hi, Alana. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tabitha Evans, Joel Friedrich, Anna Mungana. In the sheriff's office, Amanda Mitchell, Christopher Bannister, Adam Konovalov, and Joshua Schmidt. There's a few more.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
Thank
and
you.
thank you very much.
All right, now we have Commissioner Johnston acknowledging the 10-year awardees.
Yes. So in our assessor's office, we have Carrie Warden. In our community justice, we have Jason DeFrost, Marcus Krieg, Becky Newman. In our sheriff's office, we have Jacob Herr, Kevin Thurman, Nathan Skayer, Jacob Rex. In our IT, we have Todd Pettyjohn. In HHS, we have Patricia C. Mueller, Arlene Hood, Sue Brandt, Sylvia Hansen. Hey. Lance Hancock, Fabiola Alcantar, Tabitha Allbetter, Bethany Ball, Zena Doherty. Yay. Monica Radke, Paula Anderson. In our DA's office, we have Holly Winter.
Okay. And Commissioner Johnston will also do our 15-year awardees.
In admin, we have Eric Geelan. In DA, we have Sarah Grabner. In the assessor's office, we have Jeff Ivy. In HHS, we have Kathy Yonker and Robert Morris. In the sheriff's office, we have Carrie Lewers. And in public works, we have Steve Sims. Nope. Oh, I can read it off anyway.
We might have a different list. I don't want to miss anybody, though. We do have a different list. Darren Broom. Okay, did you say that?
Nope, I
Okay.
said Carrie Lewers.
Okay. Well, if we miss Darren, we apologize.
Darren's on the 25-year.
We do have a different list. Okie dokie.
Yep.
Okay, so he was just on the wrong.
Yeah.
We're trying to short Darren 10 years of service here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, I will go ahead and acknowledge the 20-year awardees. So in HHS, we have Gary Vanderveen and Matt Lee. Thank you very much. Our 25-year awardees in HHS, we have Chris Emmingham. In the clerk's office, Anita Mills. And in administration, we have Joe Moore. And if you know Joe, he is not just a man of service for our county, but also the other volunteer organizations that he participates in. And it's just incredible to have an individual of his caliber working with us. We really appreciate that.
Sheriff's. The sheriff one.
And Darren Broom from the Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Darren. Okay. Make sure I have the right one. So now for our 30-year awardees. In community justice, we have Amy Taylor. In public works, we have Frank Ramirez. And in HHS, we have Julie Goodwin. 30 years is incredible. Thank you very much. For our 35-year awardee, we have one individual that holds what I would argue is one of the most important positions in our county, and that is Ken Friday, our planning director.
Hey.
And congratulations, Ken. We hear consistently that Yamhill County is, the planning department specifically, is one of the best departments to work with in the region. And just on a personal level, the folks in our county who interact with Ken Friday absolutely love and appreciate him. So we appreciate his service.
He's one of
And-
the hardest working people, and despite all the distractions in our office, he is, sticks to
The
it.
one distraction,
The one distraction we have in our office.
the one individual distraction. Okay. And then finally, we want to acknowledge retirements that we've had this year. After 41 years of service in our Community Justice Department, Dana Corelli retired. And we thanked Dana here in this room several months ago when she retired. Incredible woman, and has done a lot for the youth in this county specifically. She's changed a lot of lives. Lori Taylor, after 25 years, retired from Community Justice. Scott Posh, 23 years in Community Justice. Sandra Shutamaya, after 21 years in HHS. Thomas Konkaluski, got that right? Okay, Konkaluski, 18 years in HHS. Nancy Nguyen, 10 years in HHS. Kathy Ariola, 10 years in administration. And Barbara Shipley was 7 years in the sheriff's office. Congratulations on retirements. Again, we have an incredible crew of folks working with us. Congratulations, and we thank you for your dedication to Yamhill County.
And thanks for coming in person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
thank
exciting
you.
to see.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
That's so strange that I haven't looked at most. I've never done this to anybody else. Okay, the next item, oops. The next item we have is our calendar session. I think we have a couple things we need to go over. The swearing in for interim sheriff Samuel Elliott is scheduled for next Thursday at 8:15 in the morning. Arrive early to get through security, but that's in room 241 with Judge Wiles. I was told that they need the courtroom back by 9 o'clock. So we can probably move the quote unquote reception down here to room 32 and just have folks here in this room before we start our board meeting before 10. And then I have also invited the sheriff, interim sheriff, to kind of give an introductory statement in the board meeting as our new official interim sheriff. So that'll be on the agenda next week. We have a new Energy Works groundbreaking at 2 o'clock. I don't know if that made it on everyone's calendar
Yes.
on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have talked about, Ken and I talked about the 28th, a board meeting on the 28th, potentially not having one.
Yeah,
because
that
of-
was a question for the board. Over the last, I don't know how many years, just looking at the formal scheduling for the month of December, between the Christmas and New Year holiday, because we have a lot of days that the office is closed. We have a lot of folks that take time off during that time. You know, it's completely up to the board, but I was going to ask about the 28th, whether or not you wanted to have a formal session. I've prepared department heads the possibility, because I think we're all kind of used to not having a session that last Thursday in December between the holidays, just because so many folks are out of the office. But again, I just wanted to put the question out there and see if there's consensus to not have a meeting on the 28th.
Good.
I think so, as long as, we don't have any pressing needs. Obviously, we can call something if we need to in short order, but
No, in anticipation of this possibility, I've already talked to department heads, and so they're aware of if there's any pending items that have to be approved before the start of the new calendar year, that next week would be our last session for the year.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I haven't heard from anyone that there's any pressing items that absolutely has to be taken care of on the 28th. And it's been, most departments are used to kind of having a somewhat of a winter break or not having a formal session that week.
sound good?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay.
I'll be around if something changes.
Sure. Yeah. Same.
Did we also add the Grand Shermina Food Bank food box for Saturday? Just- Okay.
Okay, anything else for calendar? So we will go ahead and remove the board meeting for December 28th. Okay, item E is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial ladies matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. If you are in the audience to provide public comment, now's the time to come forward, or if you are online, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, seeing and hearing none. I don't believe we received any written comment either. Item F is our department updates. There's nothing today. Item G is our work session, and today we have a review and discussion of our childcare discussion regarding ARPA funding. And we are joined by our Economic Development Director, Joya Goodrum. Welcome, Joya.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Oops, sorry.
So the last time we spoke in a board meeting, we had a discussion about bringing everybody together and kind of filtering through some of the ideas that were coming forward at a rapid clip. And Commissioner Starrett, you oversaw some of those discussions. So if you want to bring us up to speed, I think that's kind of where we left off in a formal sense.
Okay, very good, thank you. Good morning, everyone, commissioners and staff and guests. Thank you for giving me the time today to update you on childcare project you assigned to me in October. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to work on this complex and important issue for our county. Over the last roughly 2 months, I've had the opportunity to talk with a variety of individuals and organizations involved in the childcare industry. In those conversations, all had a similar message, honestly, no different than the report you received from the task force that came back a few months ago. The childcare needs in Yamhill County are threefold: qualified childcare staff, increased slots for children, and financial assistance to educate teachers and stand up or expand childcare locations. In the time I've been on this project, several organizations have come forward to express their willingness to stand up, expand, or create new childcare opportunities. I've met with and addressed their childcare programs and how they are addressing the childcare needs in our area. Additionally, I have met with 2 local private childcare providers, both seeking to open additional childcare centers in the county. Lastly, I have spoken with educators that are currently addressing the need for childcare teachers. I've done my best to connect with providers and organizations to obtain as much information for you. We all know how complex this is, so there might be things that I've missed. I'm just going to tell you the truth there, okay? We know that childcare issues in our county need a varied approach if we are to begin to solve this lack of slots for children of working families. When looking at how we best serve the needs, there are 3 areas of focus. 1, increase the number of childcare teachers and providers. 2, increase the number of slots for children, which cannot be accomplished unless we have an increase in trained staff. And 3, childcare that is expensive and 3, expand the number of childcare businesses. We have heard from studies that parents struggle to find childcare, that it is expensive and is impacting their ability to work because the hours don't fit with their work schedules. Last week, I provided individually to each of you a briefing on the proposals that have come in this time period. I will review them now with you for discussion. Please note that I will be reviewing options that have come before you earlier and new proposals to ensure you have a picture of what we have learned since we met in October. Each proposal was included in your packet. The first one, Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency provided a second proposal for $1,340,000 program to address the lack of childcare providers and teachers. Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency is a regional childcare resource and referral agency for Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties and affiliated with the Department of Early Learning and Care to recruit and support early learning and care programs. The program would train 30 apprentices, 10 per year over the 3 years, so 10 each year, 24, 25, and 26, and provide each apprentice a stipend of $10,000 for participating in the one-year training program. Upon completion, our participants will receive funding to launch their own childcare business with $20,000 each seed fund for startup and expansion. There would also be $50,000 for 2 childcare center startup and expansions. Additionally, there is funding for 2 apprenticeship and business coaching staff. The program would create 146 to 240 slots in the county. George Fox University and ADEC have requested $1 million to fund a plan to create and build a childcare center and early childcare learning program at the university. The facility will be a standalone 501c3 organization and would open 150 childcare slots for community members, George Fox and ADEC employees. They are seeking the funds to do the groundwork in planning and co-design, architectural rendering, staffing for an educational director and project manager, and construction with expected completion by the end of 2025. The Newburgh-Dundee School District offered the use of the Dundee Elementary for temporary childcare. The Dundee Elementary School is scheduled to be decommissioned and sold once the school year ends in June 2024, and they are constructing a new building on another property. Chehalem Parks and Recreation District has expressed an interest in purchasing the property for a community center, including daycare, senior care, and other community amenities. The estimated cost to purchase the property is $3.5 million. Chehalem Parks and Recreation District also came up with a plan. They offer childcare at the schools in Newburgh and Dundee that are before and after school programs for children 3 to 5 years old. They also offer preschool and daycare at the community center in Newburgh. CPRD has presented a request to refit the Sanders Estate. It is a home across the street from the Dundee Elementary School that could be used for childcare. They have proposed a $1,500,000 cost to upgrade the property and run a newborn to toddler program. That request includes renovation costs, licensing, permitting, furniture, safety and security, staffing, insurance, marketing, and outreach. Chemeketa Community College has also given us a proposal. They offer early childhood education certificates and degrees. The courses are offered to a cohort and includes an opportunity to complete an associate degree in a year. They also offer infant, toddler, and preschool certificates. They are online, in-person, daytime, or evening. Their business and industry campus offers licensing and budgeting classes for those interested in starting a childcare business. Their AA program articulates to Western Oregon to obtain a BA with 2 or more years of training and is the first of its kind in Oregon. Robin Taylor, Dean and SBDC Director with Chemeketa Community College, is here today to tell you more about the program and answer any questions you may have. Their ask is $327,261 for the program for 3 years, plus a tiered approach to stipends for students in the 14-week program. So there's an additional cost in there. Northwest Christian Church offers after-school programs at several locations within the Newburgh schools for both middle and elementary school children called The Zone. They have also sent a proposal in. Students attend between 2:45 and 5 p.m., allowing parents the chance to continue to work through those hours. NCC has proposed an expansion of The Zone and is asking for $400,000. The proposal would scale up their existing The Zone program. It is free to students and is held at 4 schools, 2 in Newburgh, Dundee, and Lafayette. They hope to expand the program from 4 schools to 8 in Yamhill County. Forrest Reinhardt with Northwest Christian Church is here today to tell you more about their proposal if you have questions for him. Lastly, I wanted to give you some information on childcare statewide because there are other things happening beyond what's going on in our county. Oregon legislature passed HB 3380, creating Preschool Promise in 2015 to provide free, high-quality preschool programs for Oregon families living at or below 200% of the federal poverty level in Oregon. The program is for children 3 to 5 years of age and follows the state's early learning and kindergarten guidelines. It is managed statewide by the Department of Early Learning and Care. Preschool Promise is available in Yamhill County, and we have some schools that are already using the program. Baby Promise, much like Preschool Promise, provides free, high-quality early care and education for infants and toddlers from low-income families. The program serves children ages 6 weeks to 3 years. Baby Promise is not yet available in Yamhill County and is currently only available in Coos, Curry, Crook, Deschutes, Jefferson, Multnomah, and Reedsport. The program is managed statewide by the Department of Early Learning and Care. I have not found any evidence that the program will be available across the state anytime soon. The Oregon Legislature's HB 3005 directed Business Oregon to work with the Department of Early Learning and Care and other agencies, private and not-for-profit entities, to implement a grant program to fund childcare infrastructure. There will be $50 million available in funding, $25 million in 2024 and another $25 million in 2025. The program is yet to be fully vetted as they are working on administrative rules and seeking stakeholder input. The Department of Early Learning and Care also manages the employment-related daycare program, which helps families who are working in school or TANF recipients pay for childcare. ERDC is a subsidy program, so some families pay a portion of the childcare cost. ERDC currently has a wait list for most families applying due to an increased demand and limited funding. The state has allocated $59 million to the program. However, they have a shortfall of $123 million for this year. I welcome any questions you may have. I've come to the end finally of this presentation. Robin Taylor is here, as is Forrest, if you have questions for them, but you have questions for me first. And if you have questions for them, we can ask them to come.
I just one clarification that employment-related daycare stipend, we know that anyone on a wait list was really not guaranteed anything. So
Correct.
that 59 million that was promised is not necessarily going to get people off the wait list. It's going to help with that shortfall. Is that correct?
My understanding is that the 59, they've got a shortfall of 123 million and nothing. They're asking the legislature for more money at this point. But
Okay, so
if you're on the
folks-
wait list, probably not going to.
Probably not. So those who are actually receiving the stipend, who are currently in, for instance, like CPRD's programs, we have a lot of
Correct.
kids, and Forrest is nodding his head. So these people who are receiving this are not necessarily going to lose that subsidy, are they?
I have not heard one way or another.
Okay, all right. 'cause
I
that's a-
don't know the
that's a
answer to that.
Big piece.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
for that. Appreciate it.
Yep, of course.
So when we met, it was interesting because it was almost a snowball. Once you guys started having these conversations, more and more proposals came forward. And there was a lot of programs we didn't know existed in Yamhill County, which is great to learn about them. But as you went through the process, we discussed that some of these proposals also maybe aren't very workable for various reasons. And I'm thinking of CPRD buying the old school, the elementary school. Are you prepared to kind of distill down really what is more workable and what isn't? I know there was a recommendation that came forward
Mhm.
last night.
I have a recommendation. If you'd like to hear
Okay.
the recommendation, you can discuss all of this. It's up to you how you would like to proceed.
Okay. Do you have any questions on any of the programs?
I do, why Joya is here, and it's
Okay.
going to be the same question for the Chemeketa program. For George Fox, are they training for the 6-week to 3-year age childcare?
It will be a program to train both.
Okay,
Both 0 to 2, which really is 0 to right before they turn 3.
okay,
And then 3 to 5.
okay. And then I'll
Yes.
have the same question for the Chemeketa one.
Yeah,
Yes, they do
and,
both.
Okay, cool.
Chemeketa does both.
Mariah Robbins was at the Economic Summit in Portland on Monday, and she, in a roundabout way, spoke to some of the work that they're doing on this too. So very involved statewide in that effort. Yeah, I think, why don't we start with the recommendation?
Okay.
And maybe explain why some of it has been distilled down to that, and we can go through that.
Sure. Okay, so after carefully reviewing the options presented, we submit the following recommendation to address the 3 areas of childcare needs in Yamhill County. There was $2,130,000 in funding available, as 70,000 was utilized of the 2.2 million that we had was utilized by the task force for the study that they had done in the presentation that they had given you. That's my understanding. Okay, so to address the need for trained early childhood education teachers, financial support while they attend training and expand childcare Provider opportunities, we recommend a contract with Chemeketa Community College to provide the 14-week training program each year for up to 25 students per cohort over the next 3 years. Additionally, provide to each student $5,775 stipend in financial assistance and encouragement to participate. We have a dollar balance of $760,386. To address the need to expand childcare options and train teachers, we recommend a contract with George Fox University for the planning, co-design, architectural rendering, and construction, development and construction, furniture, fixture, and equipment for 12 to 15,000 square foot training, research, and childcare center on the university campus for $1 million. To create more childcare slots, we recommend a contract with Northwest Christian Church to expand The Zone, a free after-school program to 4 additional schools in Yamhill County for $369,614.
Okay. Why don't we start with the Chemeketa Community College proposal?
Sure.
I do have a couple questions. Robin, if you want to join us up at the microphone, appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you just want to introduce yourself for the record, that would be great.
I'm Robin Taylor, Executive Director of Business Programming and Early Childhood at Chemeketa Community College.
Great, thank you. So this is a very fast-tracked program. So the normal program would be 18 months, I'm understanding.
The program, as we currently do it, is designed for people who are already working
Okay.
in the field. So we do Friday night and Saturday
Okay.
over that 18-month period. This would be trying to, so that takes longer than it normally would in a college program because they're working full-time.
Okay.
This is designed to bring new people into the profession who are not currently working in classrooms and having them attend full-time. So for the 14 weeks, this would be what they do. So it is
Okay.
condensed, accelerated, and
Yeah.
fast-tracked. And really, we're doing the other side of it, which is serving people who are in the profession who want to get educated. This is, how do we get new people who aren't already in classrooms?
Right, okay. And so after the 14 weeks, they will come out with what is essentially an associate's degree?
No, they come out with, we currently have these 2 certificates, infant, toddler, and preschool,
Okay,
and then a 1-year certificate and an associate's degree.
okay,
So they come out with those 2 certificates, which is 25 credits, college credits.
okay,
The associate's degree is 90. So then they can keep going. And we actually, in this program, we do have a very high rate of matriculation into the associate's degree
Mhm.
program. So the associate's degree program is designed for people who are working. So they can go in, they can get this, then they start working, and then they're taking classes part-time generally to complete the associate's degree.
okay. Well, still, that's a quarter of the credits. That's a big,
It's a very, rarely can we accelerate higher ed this
Right.
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this would cover the cost of 25 unique students, what's called a cohort every year. And it would cover all of their expenses to go through this program. So it's really kind of a leapfrog to getting that associate's degree and
Yes.
moving into early
What
childhood.
we have found is that even the cost of a textbook,
Yeah.
even the cost of just minimal, sometimes there's this idea that people need to make an investment. But the folks that we're talking about trying to bring into a program like this, the investment is their time. The investment is time away from their families. And even textbook or other minimal tuition costs, we find actually is a barrier. So it would
Mhm.
cover the whole expense.
Okay. Okay, and then I think I saw that was there like a practicum, or is there a a pipeline to some of our, our businesses that actually need the workforce?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a practicum, and actually to the question of infant toddler, one of the unique things about our community college programs is that we do focus on infants and toddlers. We actually do prenatal through 8 is the focus of our curriculum. And these certificates combined have an infant toddler practicum, which could be done in local, and currently is. Actually,
Yeah.
we work with many programs in Yamhill County. That practicum is done with local employers, often leading to employment once they get to see this person. So towards the end of the program, they're going in and doing a practicum.
Okay. So they could go through a 14-week program, get both certificates, be able to be employed in early childhood at a daycare center or wherever,
Yes.
and continue to work on their associate's degree. Okay.
Yes.
Which is designed for working people.
Yeah.
Um,
Just if I may.
Sure.
One other benefit to bringing this many people through this certificate program is that in the last several years, partially because we've educated so many people in the Head Start programs here, and partially because of online learning, we have not been able to offer early childhood classes in person in Yamhill County
Mhm.
because we just don't have enough people to do the whole degree. An exciting thing about this would be that if this many people were doing these certificates, we actually could offer the rest of the courses here in Yamhill County and not part of the program.
Mhm.
Those are funded through financial aid in other ways, but it increases the likelihood that someone would be able to get their associate's degree at the Yamhill campus.
Campus. Okay. And then I'm not familiar with the state's rules, but how often do you have to renew that certificate, or is that a financial investment for them?
So the beauty of college credit is that you never have to renew it. It's yours, and you're moving, your qualifications in the state licensing, those credits can be, those credits stay with you your whole
Okay.
life. So both in the licensing system and in the childcare registry, those credits are moving you up and you don't renew those. You are required to have training every year. So every
Mhm.
person working in a licensed childcare needs 15 hours, 15 to 18 hours of training every year, which this does count as, but you always need to get
Mhm.
that training, but the credits stay with you.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions about this program?
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate this. The 3.5 months to be able to basically have the certification, have the stipends, I think was something Joy and I really, we struggled with that. But bottom line is, when you're talking about being able to have gas to get to school and to be able to pretty much maintain yourself without getting a part-time job, this fits the bill, and I
Mhm.
think it's reasonable. The other thing is 3.5 months, you basically can go to work.
Yes.
And also you have you have transfer credits with Western to move on for a bachelor's. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
So when I was reading actually your grant, you had a grant proposal out for basically a template for this program. And you talk about the workforce that you're looking to capture. And I like that piece of it, because you're talking about rural women, you're talking about minority women, you're talking about people who are really likely to stay in this and make a business out of it. So I like the short term. Instead of 18 months or a year, we're looking at you're going to work in 4 months, you're working, and you're not out of pocket to get to classes and pay for textbooks. So thank you
Mhm.
for that.
Yes.
It's very exciting to read this, and I have 3 teenagers. And so just the idea that they could do something that is that condensed, that would get them into the workforce fast. I think that's really exciting that this is a possibility. Is there any questions?
Yes, this program will specifically be at the Chemeketa campus here in Yamhill County, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And of the 760,000 and change with the stipend, that would be 4,225 roughly going to Chemeketa. But it says up to 25 kids per cohort. What happens if you don't fill that 25 and maximize that cost per student? Does it get to go forward to the next cohort? What happens with those funds?
So what we've, aside, the reason we separated out the stipend is we really wanted you to see what is Shemeketa doing versus what would go to a participant. But the cost that we've outlined is really the cost of instruction. So we're not charging the students tuition, we're paying for the instructors, which is our primary cost. So it isn't left over. It really puts the responsibility on us and hopefully
To
the
fill
whole
the class.
community to fill that
Yeah.
class.
Got it.
If for some reason we felt like we were not at a viable point, we wouldn't want to offer it. We wouldn't want to offer it to 5 participants. We would want to keep going and find those participants. But
Right.
it's really, because it's based on the cost, it's really, let's fill that and maximize the use of those dollars.
Right, okay. But when it comes to the stipend, because the stipend is part of the 760,000, correct? So if
Right,
the
the
students
stipend is very much per
per
participant.
student. So if there was extra funds that were starting to, build up there, what happens to that? Does it move into the following year and then it's only a 3-year program? So if it happens the last year, what is it? Does it end up going into a 4th and 5th year?
Yeah. What I would suggest is a couple of different things. Let's say that the first round, we had fewer people and weren't able to use as many stipends. You could conceivably in the second and third cohort, increase the stipend that they were getting. The other thing that you could do, because we experienced this, you certainly could move money forward to help bridge students into continuing on in classes. So for example, right now, we have a cohort that just finished our Exceed program, and they've lobbied to have the cohort continue in the weekend format. We're continuing at the time that they need, but we don't have funding for a tuition reduction. So something like if there were extra money, you could certainly, incentivize the next class or
Mhm.
something.
And I'm assuming part of some contract would be just as long as those extra funds would stay in childcare education
Mhm.
within Shemeketa.
Shemeketa has made, I can say this, having been with the early childhood program over 20 years, it continues to make unbelievable investments in early childhood. And it is not an area where we try to bring in revenue. In early childhood, we do things at our cost, and we keep costs for students to a minimum. So
Sure.
that would be easy to agree to.
Cool, thanks.
I have one more question. My understanding is, because Joy and I talked about this, it was always a concern getting folks to fill those cohorts. So your marketing department would be able to jump in and really work on this aspect of getting folks into the program. And that would be included in this, hopefully.
So a couple of things about that. We actually just invested grant funding from the Department of Early Learning in a whole package of materials focused on early childhood, including videos and social media things. So we have that at the ready to deploy. But the other thing that we've been doing at Shemeketa that we also would do with this program is really working with the community-based organizations and getting in relationship with the people who are already working with the groups that we're trying to. So rather than thinking we could just put this out and people will come, really investing in the community-based organizations and helping them have resources to work with us. So yes, our marketing is at the ready, but also that we're finding that connection is a better way to bring people into programs.
And just to be clear, there's no administrative cost to what we're asking you to do.
We do have indirect in, it's the last line there before the total, just the standard college indirect.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so that's, minimal administrative costs. You're looking at
Yes.
12 grand, 17 grand, and 19 grand. Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up, kind of building off of Commissioner Steers' question. you must already know if there's roughly if there's a demand for this before you even have to advertise. Do you know, do you have a number? Is it right now there's like 8 or 9 people waiting to have a class like this, or?
So we currently, our programs, and this is a complete reversal from 10 years ago, let's say. And especially in Yamhill County, we are really serving people who are already in the field. So the reason that we put a July start date is our intention is to go out there and find people who are not waiting. If they're waiting right now, we're bringing them in. We're bringing them in and wrapping our arms around them and
Yep.
keeping them,
Okay.
but what our intention is, and we specifically chose summer so that we could reach out to high school students. And we do have a robust college credit now here in Yamhill County. So working with the high schools, but really getting out to the community who, to be totally honest with you, no, they're not on a wait list. We want to put a vision
Right,
into
'cause it
their
doesn't
mind.
exist, so
You're
we're-
currently in a
Yeah.
job and here
Yeah.
is a career. So no, there
Okay.
isn't a wait list, but we believe that we can build the interest.
Cool. Thank you.
I would think that the high schools would be a great place to start. And somehow trying to connect parents with the information as well, because we
Yeah.
only know as much as they tell us or bring home, so.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely.
Okay, any further questions on this program?
No, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
very much.
Robin, appreciate it. Okay, and so the recommendation is for roughly 760,000 for that program, and that would fully fund it for 3 years.
Correct.
Okay.
The exact number, 760,386.
Almost.
775 per student.
If 75 probably.
25 students per class, correct.
Right.
And we have super high hopes to fill that 25 and then have a wait list on top of that. Yeah.
Okay, so then, the next recommendation is the George Fox University childcare facility with ADEC. Are there any questions on that? I know we kind of,
I just had the one as far as age wise, what they were going to teach for childcare. So I'm good on that one.
It's in 150 infants and children, 15 infants, 35.
That's from the community. So 50 slots would be open to the community, and then 50 slots for George Fox staff and 50 slots for ADEC.
And ADEC, right?
Mhm.
And that total project was like 12 million?
12 million,
roughly
would-
12.
Correct, yes,
with a completion time of at the end of 2025.
25. Mhm.
And it is, okay, yeah. And it is a joint project with the city. I'm not entirely sure what the arrangement is with the city of Newburgh, but I'm expecting that there's going to be some allowances made for SDCs and things like that.
Well, that was my question,
The city of Newburgh eliminated their SDC fees for childcare.
but I think there's a sunset on that.
I don't know the sunset, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
We
can
can
look
find
into
that
that
out.
for you
Yeah.
if you'd like.
That would be my concern is, because we had talked about leveraging their action on that, that we agree with. But if this isn't built for, a few years and there's a sunset on it, I'm not totally sure if there is. I think I heard that. But, could they still leverage that? Because
I
that
can
was
look, I will look into that for you as soon as I get back to the office.
okay. Okay, and then the final recommendation was for the expansion of the after-school programs to 4 more schools for Northwest Christian Church.
Mhm.
Commissioners, any questions on that program?
Forrest is here. If there are any questions, Forrest, maybe if you'd like to come up and we can send a few questions your way. And just,
Thank you for coming and attending. If you want to introduce yourself for the record, appreciate it.
My name is Forrest Reinhardt. I'm the executive pastor at Northwest Christian Church.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Let's see, so remind me the schools that we are looking at expanding to, or at least the targets.
The schools that we would expand to would be based on the principals of those individual schools requesting the program.
Okay.
So all of the schools we've started have been because a principal has said, how do I get one of those?
Okay,
Because they've talked with another principal who has experienced an expression of the zone, or even before that, my zone, which is the middle school program that we do for the 2 middle schools in Newburgh.
okay,
Currently, they've all been Title I schools, because that's where the greater need is, typically with parents in managing after-school programs. And especially since this is at no cost, it makes it more affordable for
right.
those families to participate.
so the My Zone began 10 years ago
Mhm.
after school, and the busing, can you talk about the busing component, which is the big transportation issue a lot of our parents have with
Mhm.
childcare?
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon, what we've experienced there. All of the programs that I noted in the proposal have been a byproduct of the community coming and asking if we could help. So what we're doing with My Zone was a request from the city, the school district, number of other players in the community asking if we could be a part of helping solve that challenge with middle school kids. We had the space and we had volunteers and people who were willing to help right out of the chute. What the school district had was they had the ability to provide the transportation. So for middle school, the students are bused from the 2 middle schools in Newburgh to our campus. We kind of reserve our campus during that time frame for the use of the school district at no cost to the school district, no cost to the students, and then run the program during the week between those hours. Then the buses come back and pick them up and take them home. So they have early busing and they have late busing. They would call it their activity schedule. So students who stay for after school things at the school are part of that same activity schedule. So they've been able to the school district has been able to take care of that portion of it. We take care of the staffing, providing the programs and the space for the program to happen. That's for the middle school program. For the zone, those happen actually at the schools. So the principals basically open up the space that is needed. And one of the great advantages of that is that the students don't have to leave the school. So kids stay at the school, they just check into the program. They're already registered in the program. Their parents have registered them in the program. Our staff works with the parents in the communication. If there's any challenges that are happening with that student while they're still at work. But then they have the same late schedule busing program that works for those same children. So the children who have to be bused still have the opportunity to be involved in what's referred to as the activity schedule busing, which is the late busing program.
How have you funded this over the years?
So this started, again, it started because we were asked if we could help solve the problem. And the Austin family was part of that request. So they asked if we could provide the people in the place to do these things, they would provide the funding to do that. After doing they were the initial Rotary, some other community folks, and the Austins were the ones who funded My Zone when it started. The church provided all the space and volunteers and the programming. And then after about 5 years of that, the family members would come over once a year to be a part of watching what was happening. And if you're familiar with the second generation, Lonnie and her brother Ken Jr., they basically asked us, what would it take to replicate this? And could you do it in the elementary schools? And we said, we'd love to, if we could figure out how. The principal at that time at Edwards Elementary School was the one who they knew well, asked if we could work together with them. So collaboratively we did that. We also worked with George Fox. This is for most of the staff who serve in these programs are George Fox students. They come from either the education department or the psychology department. So the two department heads for those two departments do a lot of the recruiting of students to come be a part of the program because they get credit for that. At
Okay.
George Fox, you have to do an internship or some kind of preceptorship as a part of your program. So it's a wonderful kind of killing two birds with one stone
Yep.
for those students. And we get students who really want to be involved in that type. It's not like just a job for them. It's part of their checking out, testing their career.
Mhm.
So the Austins funded the first expression of that and then came back and said, what would it take to do more of that? I've lived in this world for a long time in terms of resourcing opportunities for expressions of programs, social service programs. It's always fun when the donor is the one saying, what can you do more of? And if you know that family, this is one of the three primary focuses
Mhm.
of their charitable giving. And so all the four that we are currently engaged in, the four schools that we're currently engaged with, all of those principals were principals who said, could you bring the program? And the Austin said, if the principals want the program, we want to come alongside and help make it happen. So they've funded it to date. And this would allow us to be more on the ready now because we're, as you can read in the little testimonials that three of the principals shared, there are more of those out there asking us. And we've said to date, we've only had the resources to fund up to 4. So we've had to be somewhat selective in providing that response. Once the principals knew that the funding would be available to expand it, I'll be very honest, my only concern is how are we going to limit it in terms of selecting what those 4 schools are going to be? And I don't know that we have all of the decision-making criteria in place to determine that.
Mhm.
But I would imagine it's going to happen pretty quickly. We just haven't wanted to create the expectation,
Mhm.
kind of set up the expectation and then have to say no. We would rather know that it would be fundable and we'd be able to execute on it before we open the door up for expanding the program.
So the college students that staff this, they're being paid. It's a job. They're being
Yeah.
paid. Okay.
Yep. They get paid basically minimum wage, a little more than minimum wage, which is unique at George Fox because George Fox, almost every degree program requires an internship, 1 year of an internship. But those internships are typically not paid.
Mhm.
And this is kind of one of the, like I said, win-win. The department heads who we work with in that love the program because it benefits their students more than a normal internship would benefit them.
Okay. So staffing hasn't been an issue
No.
for you? Okay.
No, the only challenge, I would say the only challenge we've had in staffing, which we supplement, we have a number of volunteers who
Mhm.
also volunteer to
Yeah.
serve in the program. Something that's kind of a fun part of what I get to be a part of around the church is folks who are in that kind of retired or semi-retired status, or someone who might be a stay-at-home parent who their child is in the program and they would love to come and volunteer and be a part of that. So we have a little bit of a challenge during May because George Fox ends early. So that's where it becomes a little more of a challenge. It's just that 1 month. But last year, over half of the students stayed into May. And George Fox helped us with that, with their housing side, so that they could continue to be a part of the program.
Okay. But it's not exclusively George Fox students, so we can
No.
have students from Schmeketa and the pipeline coming
Well, in
out
our
of
hope,
that.
one of our hopes, because we're just starting in McMinnville, or actually in Lafayette. So the McMinnville School District.
Okay.
Washer is the first school.
Okay.
And again, that was one where the principal there had the program at Edwards where he was before. So it's like, how quick can you bring this?
Yeah.
Now, Got to tell you a really fun story. It's really short, but he actually figured out how to leverage them. They got $15,000. All the schools got $15,000 in the McMinnville School District to help fund a literacy enhancement program. And he was trying to figure out how he's going to integrate that in the normal school schedule that they had. And he was having a hard time figuring it out. Once we said yes to doing the zone, what he did was he integrated it into that program as the after-school program, because oftentimes, as he said it, those are the kids who are going to need it the most. So now it's a hyper-targeted deal. So
Yeah.
it got its name, the zone, because there's these various kind of rotations that kids do over the time that they're there. So they do a recreation, they do a kind of a tutoring
Mhm.
deal, they do a snack, we do a snack for them. They do a group activity. So he's just going to add in the literacy program. So to that particular program. All that to say, in doing, if we expanded the program into McMinnville, then it's looking at Linfield and Chemeketa and
Mhm.
some other colleges, because we believe that's a great crew to get involved, especially if they're considering that vocationally,
Mhm.
if they're going to be involved in education.
Yeah.
It helps them get it way before they do their student teaching. They've gotten to get a good sense of whether or not this is what, to use the word vocation in its truest sense, is that their calling? Is that what they were made for?
Mhm.
And it's a great win-win in that regard.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like this solution is, we've talked with Dr. Phillips about his ideas and wanting to bring more childcare into the Newburgh County School District. It sounds like we've got a
If
program that's already working and successful and fantastic.
Dr. Phillips was the one who actually asked David and I if we
Mhm.
would consider scaling
Mhm.
when he was going through some work relative to what
Yeah.
Newburgh was doing with this very same project. So Steve was the first one to actually say, hey, would you guys be ready and able to scale if we needed you
Okay.
to scale?
Okay. Great. Any further questions on this plan?
I guess my biggest concern with this program would be that it just, and I know why it is, but it just seems to focus on the urban area like McMinnville, Newburgh, and kind of seems like it lacks in our rural schools. Because I mean, like Dayton right now, this literacy program would be phenomenal
Yeah.
for Dayton right now.
Mhm.
But I don't know if they're big enough to fit into this zone program, with bus schedules and everything else. I don't know the logistics of it. That would be one concern. The question I have is how many volunteers on average are part of the zone program?
There's typically, for every 15 to 16 students, there's a staff person. And typically there's another volunteer who's kind of their assistant, because that's how they work through their zone groups.
Never, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but no concern about ever having enough volunteers.
We haven't thus far.
Okay.
Kind of one of the fun parts about being part of this church is that people are looking for ways to get out into the community.
Cool.
It's not a country club. It's
Okay.
like, how do we get out and
Mhm.
serve people? So we help motivate people to do that. And by the way, I'm a McMinnville boy growing up. So the thought of something happening in Dayton or YC or
Mhm.
Yep.
Amity.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see that happen. And we would be all over the opportunity to have the conversation with the administrators and the principals. We want them to be the ones who say, we want it. Then we'll figure out how to.
And
help them
how
get
does
there.
that connection happen? I mean, when this meeting's done, should I be reaching out to Dayton School and have them call you? Or are
Absolutely.
you guys like reaching out to them, be like, hey, this program's out there. Do you guys want to see if this can fit to integrate into? Or
If this funding went through and we talked about this because this has been relatively quick for us. We would probably send something out to all of the administrators in the smaller communities as well, to let them know about the program. And if they would like to have a conversation about I mean, my favorite way of saying it is when one principal said, how do I get myself one of those?
Right.
And it was one of those described the program.
Right.
We would make it available to the degree we can fund it, and that all the logistics can be worked out, because we can only handle a certain part of the logistics of the program.
Sure.
And the school districts have to own a certain part of the
Right.
program.
Okay.
Cool.
Transportation probably being a big part of that.
Gonna be a big part. And I'd like to say,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna integrate into it when you're out in some of those rural school districts,
Yeah.
but they need this the worst out of
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the transportation, I think is at least my experience in working with this program and helping them put it all together. The transportation piece is probably the hardest challenge
Mhm.
for those families who are dependent upon school-based transportation.
Right. So with the after-school programs, are the buses dropping them at their homes or are they just transporting them to another drop site where the parents then come to pick them up?
It depends. The middle school, I know they go into their regular activity routes. So they're dropping them off in their neighborhood or
Okay.
their community. The elementary school, from what I understand, it's a little more of a both and. Because at that point, most of the parents are coming home from work. So on their way home from work, from talking to the director of it, I asked her that question. She said at least 2/3 of the kids are picked up by their parents
Yeah.
because that's the beauty of the program, is that it allows them to pick it up. And we don't have a hard stop time because for us, it isn't a business. So it's not like, the business ends or the school, the doors close.
Mhm.
So if a parent gets hung up and delayed, one of the staff, typically the director of that program in that school, is going to wait until the parent is able to be there because it's a service to them, nobody's in this one to make any money. We're
Yep.
trying to
Nope,
get it done as
Yep. I get it.
cost effectively as we can.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, you bet.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have maybe a few, not too many follow-up questions. I know the
please.
SDC one is pretty important for me to know how that would fold in. Or if it sunsets, what does that mean?
Mhm.
So are we comfortable bringing this back next week after we have some follow-up conversations on that with the mayor?
So if that's the only question, I don't know if there are other questions or considerations that we would get those answered prior to that so that we could bring it back next week and, make some hard and fast decisions, because I know we're looking at having had this contract,
Mhm.
prior contract, in sort of in abeyance for a while. So if that's the only question, if there are any other questions, and Joya can get those answered so that we could bring it back.
Mhm.
I have none for Joy. Mine are going to be internally that I'll have to do my own homework. And there's a couple things that I'm thinking that I just want to verify to make myself feel better. And
Joya, thank you. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure working with
Thank
you,
you.
and it's been very instructive to hear about the breadth of childcare options that are out there that we didn't know about. And then also the site visits and the visits to the childcare operations that are currently, in our community. There are
Mhm.
quite a few of them.
There are a lot of options. And thank you. I learned a lot as well. So thank you. It was a great experience. I enjoyed working with you as well. Thank you so
Thank
much. Let
you.
me know if there's something else I can.
Forrest, thank you. Robin, thank
you.
you. We'll have
Thank
more
you.
Your time.
information next week. Thank you.
Okay, so we will move the consideration of the award of childcare ARPA money to the 21st agenda. Or continue it. Okay.
Just for clarification, are you wanting this to come forward? Because this was done in a work session, or I'm trying to, how we're gonna put it on the agenda. Is this an action item under other business for next week?
That's
Con-
what I was expecting.
Consideration of the three,
Yeah, the
proposals.
recommendation. Mhm.
And would that include having the contracts ready for the board to approve, or would this just be
Oh,
okay? Just want to
Probably
make
not.
sure we weren't,
Yeah.
moving that quickly. Okay, so this would be recommending approval of the programs, and then we come back after the holiday
Yeah.
adopt
Yeah,
the
it's
contract
gonna
by the
take
time
us some time to draft contracts
Yeah.
and get finalized scopes of work and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And typically those
If
contracts go to
approved.
the providers first and then they come back to the board. So that'll
Mhm.
take a little bit. of
Yeah.
time.
Depending on what and if,
I
is
mean, if they're
approved.
just if they're the same contract structure that I saw in the package, it won't be. Okay,
I don't know.
okay.
It depends on what's approved.
As long as we know it's not next week. I think we're good for now. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is that we are needing to have an action on the recommendation by, soon, by the end of the year. So,
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have an action, so then when we're spending time, having some clear direction that if we're preparing contracts that are coming before the
Yeah.
board, you're approving the contracts and not necessarily, it gives us a little more direction on what we're working on.
Right, because there'll probably be some back and forth even when we see the contracts, right?
Correct.
mhm. Okay. So moving to the consent agenda, there's one item there. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes.
I will have some follow-ups questions with this. I'm not gonna hold anything up, but
For the consent?
yeah, just like the
Okay.
wording in some of these different contracts, kind of, to me, it's not accurate, but I think I know why, because they have to pull funding from certain categories and then they do like subcategory for the biggest ones, the epidemiology and laboratory capacity.
So those are carryover funds.
Yeah, but they were changed. From what at least my understanding is, they were increased. Unless I'm reading it wrong.
If you have questions about that, I can definitely
Yeah,
connect you with
just-
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Lindsay?
Okay.
Maybe increased because they were carried over and not spent?
Maybe.
Okay, so we will follow up with Lindsay on that. Item I, old business, I1 is consideration of approval to select vendor model -1 as the vendor to purchase 5 vans, 3 minivans, and 2 9-passenger vans according to Yamhill County Transit, Yamhill County, and Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT procurement standards. And this was continued from last week, December 7th of 2023. So since I was out last week, do you want to kind of catch me up on what the concerns were regarding, or questions were? And we have Cynthia here today as well to answer questions.
I had a couple of questions, and usually it's around the usual line of questioning I have for Cynthia. She's gotten quite used to it over the years. So when we look at ridership, and then we look at the size of the buses that we have, and we were talking about that, and also the difficulty in procuring certain types of vehicles. And so it was pretty much around the cost of the vans,
Yeah.
and you were describing, and the contract does describe the specifics and the equipment and why there are extra costs involved. But I just wanted to go back and one of the contracts actually calls out the fact that they're not able to get some equipment. It's just been really difficult. So if you could just address those things in terms of the larger buses that we are using, the ridership numbers. I know we'll at some point come back to the fare issue, but mostly it's about the the cost of these two.
Okay. Yes, I'd be happy to do that. First, I want to remind you, because I didn't actually say it in here, which is interesting, said everything else. The 2 9-passenger vans are actually the vehicles that are supposed to be used for, they're the only expansion vehicles, not replacement ones. They are for that pilot project between Junction City and McMinnville. So that was a grant we had gotten, now it's been 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And we had ordered the buses, and then the contract was canceled because they couldn't make the buses. So this is what we are left with, are these vans. I'm a little concerned they're too small, but they are what they are. And if they are too small, we could use them possibly in Dial-A-Ride and use some of our existing 16-passenger vans, hopefully. So we'll be working with Benton County. We're going to share that service, and it's a pilot for 6 months. And they're getting their vehicles about the same time we are. So those not, now the advantage to that grant, I mean, to be honest, at this point, I kind of wish we wouldn't have done it, but you know, we did because it's taken so long. I mean, I know there's a demand and there's a need, but I forgot to remind you that that's what those 2 9-passenger vans are for. And once the pilot project is over, let's say that there's not funding or desire to continue that service, we can keep those vans at our service. And that's the advantage to doing the pilot. I don't think I've actually mentioned in a long time what our fleet is currently consists of. So we have 30 vehicles. We actually have 20 vehicles are either our minivans, 12 between a 5-passenger and a 16-passenger. So that would be your minivans and your mid-size, what we typically call a cutaway. So 20 of our 30 are smaller vehicles, and we have 10 that are somewhere between 26 and 32 passenger buses. With this change in the situation with, you know, the supply chain and getting vehicles and all the manufacturers are being bought by this one large company and them not making the mid-size vehicles, it's a problem for rural agencies because the mid-size, what we call a cutaway, we can use it on dial-a-ride and we can use it on local fixed route. And so it's more flexible. Now we're kind of in this situation where we're really going to have a fleet that's demand response type service and then a fleet that's for fixed route and commuter. So you are going to get coming before you shortly some grant requests, and we're going out for bids for some 30-passenger, the bigger square buses. The good side of the larger buses is they are good quality. They're a 12-year bus. They're 500,000 miles. You can run them further than that. They are diesel. They typically clean burning diesel, and they have higher passenger capacity. The smaller vehicles, to be honest, I am shocked, to be honest. The minivans now are and these are about $120,000 almost each. I mean, that they used to be 50 and then they went to like 60. Now they're double. And the 9-passenger is 185. It's a 4-year vehicle. You know, really, both of those are 4-year vehicles. Well, we obviously typically run them much longer than that, but still, that's, you would ask, you know, no, everybody always wants to say, hey, you should buy more small vehicles. Actually, I did a little kitchen table math calculation. You have to look at, like, if you take a 30-foot bus that has 30 passengers, it costs you $600,000. But its life is a 12-year life. So you take how long it lasts, break it down by year, divide it by how many people you can carry. Its cost is like 70 cents a passenger. If you take a littler vehicle by how many passengers it can carry and its life, then its cost per ride is between $1 and $3 a ride. So actually you have a capital cost up front, but then really your cost over the life of that vehicle is higher for your smaller vehicles because you can't carry as many people. Now, it's more complex than that, but I always think like a good analogy would be if you have 50 people at your house for Thanksgiving and you all decide you want to go to the beach, you all jump in a car, well, you got freedom, you can all get there and go whatever path you want, but you got 50 cars on the road. So there's congestion, there's air pollution, all the different things. You could all jump in a bus, and then in a bus, you're all in one vehicle on the car and you get there. Probably less gas, probably less congestion, probably less pollution, whatever. But that vehicle costs a lot more, but 50 cars costs a lot too, especially now when a van is $120,000. To be honest, I'm kind of at this place where I'm like really trying to sort out the balance. Like, what is a balance? Now, we have a plan. That's great. We have a transit development plan that kind of looked at all this, sort of said, okay, here's how we're going to price our fleet, and we're following that guidance. And we did a lot of outreach at the time, but the world is changing. And we had shifted at the time we started the transit plan. We were at like, the focus of our service was more like 70% commuter, 30% local. Well, the shift in the plan was we want more local. So we put more investment in in our planning, and we have been doing that, carrying that out as much as we can to more local service, smaller vehicles, focusing on the smaller communities, focusing on rural, and we switched to more like a 60-40 split. And we are moving in that direction. I mean, to have 20 of our vehicles, you know, that's most of the fleet is actually smaller vehicles. But to be honest, you're going to see when we get this next order of larger vehicles, those will be used on the local fixed route. So you're going to see a 30-foot, because a 9-passenger is not enough. We have more ridership than that. So if we put a 9-passenger on a local route, it's not big enough. We've been trying to keep the mid-size buses and put money into them and keep them as spares. We have some success in that but you know, when we put it in a grant that we're going to replace it, then ODOT and the feds want us to replace it, you know, so we have to jump through some hoops if we decide, hey, we want to keep that and have it as a backup vehicle. It's possible, but sometimes it can be challenging. So I know I'm kind of going a little bit off your question, but there is a lot of changes happening in the industry and balancing. And I do think when we have the discussion about fares and ridership, our ridership is continuing to grow, and it is growing. The commuter services still, like the McMinnville to Tigard and the McMinnville to Grand, all of those are pretty busy, and you couldn't really do that with littler vehicles. You know, you really need the larger ones. Of the local routes, 2 of the local routes are quite busy and wouldn't be enough if you used vans. Now, I'm still very interested in real-time sort of Uber style services. But to do that, you have to we don't currently have in our dispatching software, scheduling software, a real-time module. So it's the ability for a customer to just pick up their phone and schedule. We don't have that module. Now, those are available, and I'm actually going to be talking to a vendor shortly to just learn about the one that would link to the system we currently have. I wasn't very impressed with it last time I saw it, which was a couple of years ago. So actually at the conference I was at, they've made some progress, and so I got a contact with someone, and we're gonna talk next week. But it really does kind of come down to balance, and it comes down to what does Yamaha County need, and what do we really want, and what's our focus. I do see us going in more of a direction of more direct service with groups like seniors, and they have needs, and they need to go to the bank, and they need to go to the shopping. So more of like a shuttle, and that will require, I want the midsize, you know, I want those 12 passenger at least to 16, and those are the ones that are hard to get. But maybe we can figure out how to utilize the 9 and the minivans to be able to do that as well. So I would love next time we have a chance to have like a work session, and I think it will pair well with talking about the fare structure and how we want to grow the system, or what's the most important to you as commissioners and to the community. Because a system that's more focused on, say, social service, human service needs does look different than a system that's more focused on the commuter. But the commuter is much more efficient. I mean, you know, really, you're carrying a lot more people with one vehicle. It's cost per ride. I mean, some communities I've been in, all they want to talk about is cost per ride. Well, when you just have a van and you're taking 1 or 2 people, your cost per ride is much higher than when you're taking 30 people in a bus, you know. But that's why I never think either one is correct. You know, there's a balance, because there's times when, hey, it's really important that you take these group of seniors every day, and maybe you're only taking 1 or 2 at a time, and that cost per ride's $30. You know what I mean? But doesn't mean that that's less important because it's a higher cost per ride than the person who has to get to work. So it's always a balancing act. And I'm hopeful that with electric and all the alternative, even though I have my own opinions about how that's rolling out, the advantage to alternative fuels such as electric is that you will have more user-friendly type vehicles. Like you can have the low floor without having to modify them so significantly. I think that will become possible. But there's a big backlog on getting those Altoona tested, and they take years, and that's a requirement to get federal funds to spend on those type of vehicles. So it's a bit of a complex environment, and I'm sorry if I went way too big picture, but the bottom line for these is we only had one vendor, really viable vendor, that bid on both. You know, one of them, there were two, but the lower cost, I mean, not by very much, but so there's only really one vendor who can provide these minivans. And the minivans will be replacement, the MVs are expansion. I mean, MV, excuse me, the 9-passenger are expansion.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so the 5 vans and 3 minivans are replacement vehicles.
The
to-
3 minivans are replacement,
Oh.
the 2 9-passenger expansion, because they were originally, they're intended for that new,
Pilot.
that pilot service, but
Project.
we will be able to keep them beyond that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
but-
just to verify, what was the local match?
So the local match, that's a good question. I should have had that right in front of me. Well, I think I maybe have it in the memo. I may not have it per vehicle.
Total was 73.
Usually I put it in there. Did I forget? Oh, here, I've got it on my spreadsheet. Me and my spreadsheets, I have too many of them. Okay, so the 9-passenger vans, the grant funds were about 280,000 and match is 70. And I did put the match money into STIF. So the match will come from state transportation improvement funds. Although because the price came in even higher, even though when we did the grant, we projected it even more, there might be a little bit more that we have to add from what the county provides in the transit budget from county funds. We may have to actually put a little bit extra in there. Because, you know, it's just crazy making. And then the minivans, there's 3 of those for a total, but we had put in grant funds of 245,000 with a match of 55. But as you can see, they came in a little bit more than that.
So you're looking at 4 to 5 months.
Yeah,
for
actually,
delivery date.
these 2 particular vehicles, the vendor had pre-ordered, and so he's able to get them fast. That was another reason why we also wanted to go with this particular vendor, is because they can get the vehicles to us in 120 to 150 days. And a lot of the other ones, even just a mid-size high floor, not low floor, they were going to be 2 years. So that's kind of exciting, actually. And we have been having to put money into our, well, it's not going to mean anything to you, but what we call our 1300s. It's like 2013 mid-size that we had purchased before I had started working here, and they have 350,000. I'm sorry, I have an alarm on here. 350,000 miles on them, and we just have to. We don't have anything, so we have to keep putting money into those to keep them on the road. At this point, we put enough on a couple of them that we're just going to keep them as backups because we've invested at this point, and we don't have a lot of spares actually, so it's good to do that. But it's, yeah, I
Thank
wish.
you. Yeah, I'm just-
I had a crystal
Thank
ball.
I'm
you.
shocked at the cost of
Oh, I am too.
vehicles in
Yeah.
general.
So I hope you
It's
don't,
crazy.
the one thing when the
No
next
different.
round comes and we come to you with the bigger buses and you're like
Mm.
600,000. I'm sorry.
No, I
You
was making comments I was venting to the chair about cost of vehicles. It doesn't matter where you're at anymore, whether it's farming or transit or
Cars.
cars. I mean, a
Trucks.
truck is, 70 some grand now for a truck. I mean, just a farm truck is
Yeah.
with no bed on the back. You still have to put another 15 grand into a bed. You're 70 to 75, and then another 15. A farm truck's 90 grand now. And that's no bells and whistles. That's the cheapest one you can find for
Yeah.
a nice heavy duty farm truck. So
Thank you,
Okay,
Cynthia.
thank you for coming and answering questions. Do I have a motion to approve item I1?
So moved.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you. Item J, other business. J1 is consideration of approval of a notice of intent to award for construction of the Pike Road Bridge Replacement Project in the amount of $799,500.
Chair, I'd like to recuse myself. I do business with Lawson Corp, just in case there's any potential conflict of interest there.
there were quite a few bids submitted. I was surprised at that,
8.
but yeah, yeah. Okay, so Kit is recusing and abstaining from voting. Or do you have any questions on this item?
No, I would move approval, Chair.
Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great. Let the motion or record show that Commissioners Starrett and Burschauer voted in the affirmative and Commissioner Johnston abstained. Item J2, consideration of the reappointment of Brett Beach to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire June 30th of 2027. So we had some reappointments in front of us. If you recall, this one in particular, there were concerns about attendance levels and, following the bylaws of what we have in place for the Planning Commission. This is an extremely important commission that we have based on the recommendations that they make to this board. So we sent it back to the Planning Commission to have them, review some of the concerns and come to a conclusion on what they wanted to do. They had a discussion. I don't know if you were able to watch that discussion, but I watched it. I think it was there.
I was.
So clearly, there was a lot of confusion, I think, and just people didn't know that we had these bylaws and these sort of expectations of attendance and various other things. So I think that what came out of it was an educational opportunity to make sure that we can align our expectations with the bylaws that we have. And if we need to look at those bylaws and amend them or change them to be more up to date, then that's something that we need to do. But for the time being, I think the Planning Commission felt that this was a learning opportunity.
Yep.
And they have recommended the reappointment of Brett Beach as they did the first time. Is there any further discussion on that?
No, I think it was good. I think for all of our volunteer committees, for folks to know that it's an important responsibility, and I appreciate that we have the opportunity to just talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, my concerns were just that it's such a key, provides such a key part of the work that we do in the community, and the decisions that we make that have real impacts on people and their property rights. So that was my goal in saying, I really want to make sure that we're not only following the bylaws, but also just kind of raising the standards of our community members who serve on these committees, because they do play such an important role. So.
Yep.
Okay. So do I have a motion to reappoint Brett Veach to the Planning Commission for a
Alright.
4-year term?
Yeah, I make a motion to reappoint Brett Beach for a 4-year term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Okay. Any further discussion?
None.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Great. Thank you very much. J3 is consideration of approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Yamhill County, Lane County, and Wasco County for the provision of summary of assessment and levies, or SAL, report solution effective upon execution of all parties through June 30th of 2024. I will move approval. Is there discussion or questions?
None.
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you. J4, consideration of approval of the emergency, starting over. Consideration of approval of the Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG 23-535 between Yamhill County and the Oregon Office of Emergency Management for the 2023-2024 fiscal year in the amount of $78,315 retroactive to July 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2024.
Chair, this grant was applied for. We have received the funds, 78,000 of it, and $315 is our match. And it's used for core capabilities. So I would move approval.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Motion passes. The next three items are, they apply to the CJC specialty grant funds that we have been awarded. And these funds cover parole and probation officers, our drug court conference attendance, and also a court coordinator. So I will just go through each one. J5 is consideration of approval of grant agreement number SCP-23-46 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission to support the Adult Recovery Court in the amount of $217,212, retroactive to September 5th, 2023 through March 5th of 2025.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Sterrett moves approval. Is there further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. J6, consideration of approval of grant agreement number SCP-23-47 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission, CJC, to support juvenile drug court in the amount of $101,072 retroactive to September 5th of 2023 through March 5th of 2025. I will move approval. Is there further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. I'm trying to read fast, but I'm cold, shivering. Item J7 is consideration of approval of grant agreement number SCP-23-48 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission, CJC, to support court coordinated services in the amount of $73,816 retroactive to September 5th, 2023 through March 5th of 2025. I will move approval. Is there further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Item K is public hearings. We have nothing today. L is announcements.
Saturday is the food box giveaway at, Sheridan on Bridge Street at the Grand Carolina Food Bank. I know a couple of us are going to be there.
Yeah. Look forward to it. Announcements?
No.
No? Oh. Do you have anything further?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
So-
Tomorrow is LGAC, but that's the
Oh.
local government
Okay.
advisory committee. We'll be meeting to talk about what else?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, Measure 110 and
Mm.
HHS and public safety.
Yeah, COG's been addressing a lot of 110 stuff.
Mhm.
Was canceled, but we were supposed to have a presentation from a couple of legislators that were deeply involved in trying to reform. I prefer to see some kind of repeal language, but
Right.
I guess the good part, it seems like we're all heading in the right direction. It's just how far do we get?
Right.
So COG's working on some stuff.
Speaking of Measure 110, so we, legislators, commissioners from around the state, Multnomah, Umatilla, Columbia, Marion, Clackamas, I was there, a few others. We attended the Oregon Business Plan Summit on Monday, and typically the Business Plan Summit is, it's heavy on county commissioners, but it's also legislators from throughout the state. And the whole point of it is to talk about the statewide economic plan and how it intersects with different industries and higher education and K through 12 and all those things. It was very odd because the governor was there and presented for most of the morning, but presented a recommendation for the city of Portland specifically. And the recommendation is, it was a 10-point plan, and it basically is entirely around Measure 110 and the impacts of Measure 110 and the addiction crisis that we're facing. And And it was just fascinating to watch because you had leaders of industry in that room. And almost the entire morning, we talked about how the city of Portland is failing. And it was a bit disappointing for people who don't live in Multnomah County to hear that there's so much attention and focus there, because it's a systemic problem and it's happening throughout the state. And so I think the attitude, the commissioners kind of gathered afterwards, and some of us were a bit stunned because, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, if we're going to ban public drug use and treat hard drugs the same way that we treat marijuana and alcohol with the same laws, and reinstate penalties for possession, which is essentially repealing Measure 110, and declare a state of emergency for fentanyl, why not the rest of the state, right? And that question just wasn't answered. And I think what was even more shocking was that the Multnomah County commissioners, some of them are doctors who treat addicts, were not aware that the governor was going to actually say these things. They were just kind of stunned, and they certainly weren't part of the conversation. So we'll see how that goes, and especially how it sort of impacts the special session. I think the governor has now opened the door, and we're going to try and walk through it because it needs to happen statewide. And then kind of on that same note, Representative Lucetta Elmer hosted an addiction roundtable that was specifically addressing Measure 110 on Tuesday. And so I gave that update of what we experienced on Monday, but Interim Sheriff Sam Elliott was there, Chief Scales, Director Manfred was there, DA Brad Berry, mayors. We had quite a few mayors: Amity, Lafayette, Carlton, Sheridan, and Wilmina. So that was really fascinating to kind of get their perspective from a city standpoint on what's happening. And then McMinnville Safety Task Force leader Kim Morris was also there. And I think that what it boils down to is we've kind of lost this compulsory nature that we had with intersecting with addicts through our court system or drug court or even law enforcement. It's now gone because of Measure 110, and that's what needs to come back. So if that means a repeal, then it means a repeal. But the component of holding people accountable for possession needs to come back, because we have no other way to intersect with people in the course of their addiction. And Captain Elliott, or Interim Sheriff Elliott, was saying, I go through the grocery store and I intersect with people all the time that, I've arrested in the past, and they will tell you, and I think Chief Scales also said this, that being arrested and being held accountable and going through drug court and going through recovery service was the break in that pattern that they needed, and that they wouldn't be here otherwise. So it's emotional, I think, I don't think we acknowledge this enough, but it's emotional for law enforcement, because they are really on the front lines of this, and they're now talking about removing the life-saving awards for officers who bring people back with Narcan. So if our officers are bringing people back with Narcan and saving lives, the conversation statewide is that they're going to stop giving life-saving awards to our officers because it's happening so much. And it's so demoralizing. The mayor of Lafayette, she's got young children. Her 11-year-old is sort of self-reporting that the attitude now in schools, even our middle schools, is that this is just okay. Using these things is okay. And it's terrible for parents to be in a position where you're trying to say, no, this is bad. It's going to ruin your life. And yet we're being undermined. So it was a great discussion. Really appreciate Rep. Elmer putting that together, and she's on it. That this is her goal of the special session, is to see if we can get some relief to this. So kudos to her. But that's all I had for announcements. Any other things we have to go over? Okay. There's nothing else for the good of the order. I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for December 14th, 2023